The FIA has finally spoken up about the new regulations, and what they've shared has left fans and drivers stunned. Some of the facts coming out are not just surprising, they're downright worrying, and they've sparked debates the FIA never expected in the first place. Concerns are mounting that top drivers, including Verstappen himself, might even consider an earlier retirement if these regulations fail to keep Formula One entertaining. And let's be honest, that's a very real possibility. But here's the big question. How can the FIA hope to keep the drivers engaged when the new cars are supposedly going to be up to 2.5 seconds slower than what we have right now? And beyond that, has the sport already become too over-artificialized, pushing Verstappen into making subtle but very real threats about walking away? These new regulations have quickly become one of the hottest topics in the paddock, and for good reason. Drivers are voicing serious doubts about whether the cars will even be enjoyable to drive anymore. Verstappen, Stroll, and Leclerc have all raised pointed concerns, painting a picture of a future that feels uncertain at best. But according to the FIA's single-seater president, Nicholas Tombazis, a lot of the focus is being placed on the wrong things, especially when it comes to single-lap times. That's been a hugely controversial issue because the planned 50-50ths power split between the internal combustion engine and battery power has yet to prove whether it can deliver the thrill drivers demand. Many of them worry the cars simply won't feel anywhere near as good as the ones they're racing now. Elaborating on what he calls unfounded worries, Tombazis explained. First of all, I do get a bit surprised by how much emphasis is put on the actual lap times. We've had various phases of the sport when cars have been slower or faster, and I think once you are used to it, it's okay. If you walk out of a simulator or in real life, go from one car to another car that is 1.5 seconds slower, you initially think this is not a good car because you feel that 1.5 seconds. But I think once you've driven that a bit, then it actually doesn't matter. At the end of the day, safety remains a huge priority. Tombazis acknowledged that not long ago, we tragically lost drivers in the feeder series, and innovations like the Halo have proven how far F1 has come in protecting its athletes. But he also admitted that if this progress comes at the expense of competitiveness and makes the cars slower, then drivers aren't going to enjoy it, and this is exactly why Verstappen has been so vocal. For years, he's hinted at retiring early, and these new technical regulations could push him closer to that decision. The cost of losing a four-time world champion like Verstappen would be astronomical, not just for Red Bull, but for Formula One itself. While the sport doesn't revolve around one man, Verstappen's popularity brings in millions of fans, and if that disappears because of FIA decisions under Ben Sulayem's leadership, the governing body could be facing its biggest crisis in years. Tombazis, however, insists that slower lap times and recharges won't actually be that big of a factor. In his view, once the drivers adjust, the problem will simply disappear. But the real question is this: is it worth getting used to in the first place? He added, in our simulations, the new cars will be between 1 and 2.5 seconds slower at the start of the regulations, and clearly there will be evolution that will make them gain speed. In fairness, we don't have data from all the teams. We don't know the exact levels of downforce from all the teams. Potentially, some teams that don't get it right initially may be a bit slower than our simulations, but we don't expect lap times to be a talking point. Now, we do have to give the FIA some credit here. They've been very cautious in adapting to this new regulatory era. What we saw back in 2014, when one team ran away with a massive advantage, cannot be allowed to happen again. Tombazis strongly believes that won't be the case this time. Still, the general consensus right now is that teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, and Aston Martin could hold the upper hand due to their engine supremacy. Yet, not everyone is convinced. Charles Leclerc, for example, isn't so sure these regulations will be enjoyable for drivers. In fact, he made a very striking statement, suggesting that everyone will basically need to erase what they've learned about driving F1 cars and start over from scratch. Leclerc explained, "It's a new challenge that I embrace, but I am adamant about its difficulty. It's very, very different from what we are used to. I think drivers, there will be a lot of things that we'll have to forget from whatever we've learned in our careers to start again from a blank page." That's a little bit strange because having done this sport since I was 4 years old, having to erase something from my muscle memory will be a little bit strange, but it's part of the game and in itself, it's a challenge to try and reinvent a little bit the rules and find some performance in other things. I'm looking forward to the challenge, but it's very different. And it's not just Leclerc who's skeptical. Lance Stroll also voiced his concerns, calling the new regulations over-artificialized and warning that too many rules are stripping away the very nature of the sport. Many fans and experts agree with him, but no matter what, the FIA must carefully steer through these murky waters. Because one thing is certain. Nobody will know the real impact until testing day 1. Simulator feedback from both Leclerc and Stroll suggests there are problems that need fixing, but until the cars hit the track for real, it's impossible to draw final conclusions. On the other side of the argument stands Fernando Alonso, who firmly believes the sport is headed in the right direction. His confidence comes from the fact that his team has already been focusing on 2026 for a long time, perhaps giving them insights others don't have. And while the shakeup is huge, Alonso insists that doesn't necessarily mean Formula One is heading toward disaster. Sharing his thoughts, he said, "For us drivers, for sure, I think these kinds of tracks, Spa, Suzuka, high speed, less downforce, are not going to be as exciting as what they are now. That's just a fact. Until maybe a couple of years into the regulations or whatever. I don't know, but it's going to be a hit in downforce, and we're going to be sliding around more than what we are now. I only did 1 day in the simulator, and it was difficult to really take any conclusions from that, so I will wait a little bit longer, or maybe even test a real car, because sometimes in the simulator you have a feeling, and then in the real car, you have a different one. And this is what makes Formula One so fascinating. It's a sport built on constant innovation. When you see drivers like Alonso and Hamilton supporting the changes, it's a strong indication that, while controversial, the direction may indeed be the right one. Having been in the sport since 2007, Hamilton understands exactly how a car should behave, and he's excited about the innovation and development these changes could bring. Still, the Ferrari driver wisely cautioned that this could go either way, as he explained. For me, the thing I love about Formula One is that there are these changes that come along the way. There's so much innovation and development, and every time they make these changes, the learning curve is so steep for everyone within the team. So, it really challenges us all to dig deep, to innovate. Even from a driver's perspective, it's gotten more and more intricate as the years have gone on. I don't really want to shut it down because maybe things will be good. Let's see when we get into the next season. And here's where it gets even crazier. Top speeds won't be a problem. According to Toto Wolff, the next generation F1 challengers could reach up to 400 kilometers per h. Yes, you heard that right. 400 kilometers per h. Aston Martin reserve driver Felipe Drugovich backed up this claim, admitting he fears these speeds could make the cars feel like rockets blasting out of corners. So the million-dollar question is, what do you think? Are the 2026 regulations a step in the right direction, or are they a disaster waiting to happen? And what do you make of Tombas's defensive stance? Most importantly, how do you see the grid shaping up in 2026? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.